To this Chinese trade wrinkle here?
No.
Okay, good for you. Good for you. A man of very few words, but you know what you know. How are you, Bill?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not. All I know is that for decades, China has had a very profitable trade policy with the United States, and in October, the deficit of trade in China's favor was at a record $5.5 billion just for the month.
Yeah, but it's not helping us. Here's the thing that I'm concerned about with China and have been for a long time. If they do deals with anybody here, they force the companies, and this is the company's fault. They force the companies to give us your all your data, give us all of the plans, et cetera, et cetera. That's the company's responsibility. They want to make that deal with China, they can make that deal and not have a market if they don't want to make that deal. That's fine. What I don't like about China is the corporate espionage that goes on in this country from China. They are all over American technology, and they thieve it. They absolutely
they steal
thieve it. Yeah.
But I don't like the fact that the Chinese government, which obviously controls their economy, unlike the American economy, government does not control the American economy. That's a big thing everybody's got to understand. They don't take enough soybeans, Beck. I mean, they say,
they're not taking any now.
We'll take 400 soybeans, but we're not taking any more. And, I'm making a facetious comparison, but we can't send them as many products as they send us because their government won't allow it. And that's what Trump wants to stop. So if you have to break it down into terms even I can understand, use the soybean model.
All right. Let's talk about a couple of quick hits here. First of all,
yes.
Heather Nauert is going to be the next ambassador to the UN.
Right, and Steve Ducey is probably going to be her deputy.
Okay, good.
Then what's going to happen is there's going to be a UN cookbook coming out. All right, so all of these things, it's synergy, Beck.
Right.
Synergy.
Right. So I'm glad to see that we have our first initial pass at this is very, very similar. You know Heather. I don't know her at all. I assume she's very smart and she's very good at her job. But the UN ambassador is usually reserved for somebody that has deep experience around the globe.
Yeah, I was surprised Kilmeade didn't get it, but, I don't think he wanted it. So, look, Heather Nauert is a very smart woman, very well educated. Her expertise is in foreign affairs. Mm-hmm. She was a news person on Fox. She did analysis for me early on The Factor. She was good.
Wait, hang on just a second. Didn't she start on The Factor? Isn't Heather the one that was in school with Al Gore?
I don't know if she was in school with Al Gore. I don't know that. But I put her on first very early because she was smart. And her expertise was in foreign affairs. Then ABC hired her away from Fox. She was a reporter. So I'm not really getting the angst, other than, well, she worked for Fox. That kind of thing.
Yeah, that's not honestly, that's not my problem that she worked for Fox. I just, I think Nikki Haley was phenomenal. Probably one of the best since Bolton or Jean Kirkpatrick.
But remember, Haley's whole background was in local politics and didn't have a strong foreign policy resume.
But
did very well.
But if you're if you are in politics, if you're governor of a state, you do have international relations. You do have negotiation experience. You're not a reporter. That's not the job of the ambassador at the UN.
I think you're denigrating the repertorial squad here. I think I could do that job at UN ambassador. I think I could do it.
I think you probably could.
Yeah.
We would be in global war in about 20 minutes, but I think you could do it.
We'd win. And there'd be a lot more soybeans going over to China.
Sure there would be.
So, look, people need to understand, if you're an ambassador to the United Nations, you basically are an order taker. You're not a policy forger. Okay? There's a big difference in the job of Secretary of State, where Heather was, the spokesperson, but I understand that she had a lot of input into what happened.
Good.
But when you're an ambassador to the United Nations, you basically confer with the White House, and you are told this is it. Now, you can make suggestions, but you don't forge policy.
Right. Okay. So we're talking to Bill O'Reilly about the news of the day, and I wish Heather the best. And I mean, I want her to win, and I want her to be even better than Nikki Haley, because I thought Nikki Haley was fantastic, and we finally took a stand where we should, and she was very, very smart the way she handled things. And I'm hoping that Heather is exactly the same. But I do think this is a first for the Heathers of the world to be a global ambassador.
That also gives more prestige to the name Heather. And
it really does. Thank you very much.
That's what we expect from you on the radio.
Well, that's the kind of analysis that I can bring to the table. Let me take you to France. France shut down the Eiffel Tower. 89,000 security forces were deployed. The president bent on this global warming tax, which started it all, which now that he bent, now everybody is saying, well, wait a minute, I want something too.
That's right.
Tell me your thoughts on France.
Well, if they close down our bound pain, then I'm going to have to get involved.
I don't think that's actually French.
Oh.
Okay.
The French are here's the real story. You hire me. Well, I do this free for plugs. I work for plugs, not hair plugs.
Right.
Book plugs.
No, I mean, you're very cheap.
Right.
You really are.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So here's the deal in France. Nobody has any money. Why? Because the government takes it away from you in the form of taxes. And the quid pro quo is, that's Latin, we'll give you everything. So you get free school and free health care, free retirement, 6 weeks vacation a year, Beck.
And we can't fire you. Nobody's allowed to really fire you.
Even if you drive a nail in somebody's foot, you can't get fired. Okay, so that's the trade. And then we take all of your money that you earn. Okay. So now the average French person needs 3 things: coffee, cigarettes, and croissants. Okay. That pretty much wipes their disposable income every day out.
Right. It may be a little exaggeration or
it's like the soybeans, Beck.
Okay, no, all right. We'll go with it.
Here.
We'll go with it.
So when they raise the money on the liter of gasoline, they don't have it. And, to drive from Paris to Nice for a little fun, that's going to cut it. So that's why they're all mad, because they don't have any backup. It's like, well, okay, we made our bargain with the government, but now the government's hosing us, as they always do, taking more than they should in taxes, and now we're going to burn down the Eiffel Tower.
Here's the amazing thing, is they all are for this. 80% of the French people are for, global warming measures, et cetera, the Paris Accord.
Then stop blowing so much tobacco and smoke in the air.
Right.
Knock it off.
So they're all for this, but when it comes down to it, when they actually see that the price has to be paid by the average person, that's when they say, wait a minute. We thought somebody else was going to pay for this.
That's right. No.
You're right. You soak the rich, not us.
The car's on fire, that's polluting the air. It's making things even hotter.
That's
Come
right.
on, knock it off.
Okay. So your thought on does this peter out, or is this the beginning of something bigger? Because
Macron has already said, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
But now
the labor unions,
for fun.
Yeah, labor unions and everybody else has an axe to grind, and it's going, I think, to Belgium, is it Norway and England this weekend?
Norway and England are going to have demonstrations as well?
Yes.
Okay, but these are anarchists now that come out. I mean, these are the people who want to open borders in America, those kinds of people, Antifa.
Yes.
That's who's coming out now.
It's almost like the left and the right are working together over in Europe to destabilize Europe. I don't know where I heard that about 8 years ago, but it looks like that's finally happening. So,
well, look, if you are going to the message for all Americans is if you are going to allow the government to regulate every part of your life, you're going to get hosed.
Bill O'Reilly back with more in just a second. Bill O'Reilly, of course, the author of, I don't know. He used to make fun of me. Glenn, you write so many books. I'm like, yeah, I know. You should write some books. It's great. We, correct history, inform people. Now he's on his, I believe it's his 1500th number one bestseller. Still in the top 5, Killing the SS, The Hunt for the Worst War Criminals in History. It's available everywhere now. It is a great book. One of his best, Killing the SS. Bill O'Reilly is joining us today. Bill, first of all, I appreciate the email this week wishing us congratulations on the merger, and the number one question that many of our audience has is, when will you join forces with the evil empire that we are assembling here?
The world is changing media-wise. I get ratings, cable news ratings, and network news ratings every day.
Yeah, I know.
And the deterioration in the audience, particularly 25 to 54, is startling. Americans are not getting what they want from television news overall.
I've seen some of the ratings on CNN, and the ratings on CNN for 2554 are lower than the ratings we used to have when we were struggling over on headline news. I mean, it's bleak. It's bleak.
So I think consolidating your power on the Blaze with CRTV is a good, smart move.
Yeah.
It's all about having a vehicle that's different and then letting the folks decide what they'd like to watch.
And also creating something, I think, that does not tell people what to say, what to do, what to think, how to produce their show. Just produce your show. And
you got to get good people, and you also have to have distribution. That is the key. So at this point in my career, we're doing very well on BillO'Reilly.com, better than I ever thought. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to just wait and see. Mm-hmm. What happens in the next few months. Anything could happen with me. I mean, I'm open to a lot of possibilities.
You never know. We've also hired a new negotiating firm, Vito and Vito.
I like Vito, and I'm glad he's on parole.
Oh, you're going to love him. You're going to love him.
He's out.
All right. Bill, tell me here in about a minute and a half that we have, your thoughts on the George Bush funeral this week.
Okay, before I get to that, and when we come back, I hope we can talk about the column I wrote on religion and clerics sermonizing in churches. I hope you read that, because I want to know what you think about what I said.
All right.
Okay. The funeral of Bush the Elder, very, very positive for America. Shows the world that the country admires patriotism and honesty. And certainly those attributes were part of the Bush the Elder's appeal. Obviously the cable news took about 30 seconds after the funeral in Washington was over for them to begin tearing up again and misbehaving. Can't stop it. It's an epidemic. It's disgusting. But I thought the Bush family and the whole presentation was a big plus for the country.
What do you think George Bush, in the end, George H.W. Bush, will be remembered for?
Being a decent man. You know, he wrote me 2 letters that I promised I wouldn't publish until he passed. I have them on BillO'Reilly.com. Very strong letters, Beck. One about the media bias and the other about Iran-Contra. And I hope all your listeners will go there and read those letters. Mm-hmm. He was an honest man, but fundamentally a decent, kind man.
I agree.
I had a nice correspondence with him.
I agree. Bill O'Reilly, we're going to talk about his really powerful op-ed, "O Come All Ye Faithful," when we come back. Okay. Mutation. It's the key to evolution. It has enabled us to evolve from the single-cell organism to the dominant species on the planet. We were just crawling out of the slime, and now look at us. Our tails fell off, and look what we've created. Anyway, this process is slow, normally taking thousands and thousands of years, but every few hundred millennia, evolution leaps forward, they tell us. Now, these aren't my words. That was said by Professor X during the opening credit scene of the movie X-Men, where I get all my science news. But it popped into my head last night as the news from Google broke that their artificial intelligence arm, called DeepMind, had just reached, quote, a turning point in history. Oh, I love it. I love it when Google announces turning points in history. Now, DeepMind's AI algorithm, AlphaZero, has been showing human-like intuition. Now, this is something that AI researchers have said is at least a decade away, if we ever get there. We just made it last night. So now, how has evolution leapt forward? Well, first of all, it's not human. AlphaZero is only a year old, and it began its learning process just like we do at school. It's an AI classroom that was a chess program, and within just 4 hours, it completely mastered the game of chess. But here's the thing. It was never programmed on how to win. It wasn't taught anything about the game. It taught itself. Chess programs have existed in the past, but their play is based on the calculation of outcomes using program strategies. AlphaZero, on the other hand, just learned and came up with its own strategies. Its moves now baffle the human chess masters. Chess master Matthew Sadler said, quote, "It's like discovering the secret notebooks of some great player from the past," end quote. Now, the reason why AlphaZero's moves are so baffling is because, and I want you to hear this carefully, it's because its thinking is so unlike a human. Oh. So it's like alien thinking. It won't think like we do at all. Oh, that sounds good. Here's what they went on to say, quote, "It places far less value on the individual pieces, sacrificing its soldiers for a better position in the skirmish," end quote. Oh, my gosh. That's either a warning light or just heartwarming for anyone who just wants to take over mankind. You see, inside the AI laboratories, I don't think they realize how much trouble they are going to unleash. What happens if AlphaZero is employed in the Department of Defense? Of course, not our Department of Defense, the Chinese Department of Defense. Can you imagine the same strategy sending orders to our military? What about doctors and healthcare? Because that's what's happening now. AI is being introduced to healthcare. Now, a doctor would never think about sacrificing a patient. I mean, just look at universal healthcare in Europe. They're not doing that already in England. However, Dr. AlphaZero would. If the military and healthcare sound outlandish, consider that both Russia and China are currently developing AI for military purposes. Do you think we're just going to sit around and sit that one out? Companies like Amazon and Google are developing AI to revolutionize healthcare. Yesterday, when it came to AI, Microsoft said they are all in with the United States government. By the way, we're just a few short years away. Or so they tell us. Just like before last night's news, we were decades away from human intuition. Human-level intuition and creativity in AI is a turning point in history. Google is right. It is the first step toward artificial general intelligence. I think today we might want to stop and just explain what that is, because we may ultimately look back on this development that happened last night when everything changed. Professor X said evolution has enabled human beings to be the dominant species on the planet, and major evolution just leapt forward. But this time, evolution wasn't human.
It's Friday, December 7th. You're listening to the Glenn Beck Program.
People just, please hear me. We are talking about nonsense in our everyday lives. We are talking about true nonsense. I don't care about the latest tweet. I don't care how big and beautiful Donald Trump's funeral would be. That's what they were actually talking about yesterday, mocking Donald Trump during the funeral of George H.W. Bush. Oh, it'll be beautiful, and it'll be the most wonderful funeral of all time. Can you stop it? Can we please talk about something that is important? The answer is no, unless you seek it out. My New Year's resolution is going to be to really focus just on those things that are important. And I wrote them out last night, or the night before last, and there's 8 categories. And I'm going to go over them with you after the first of the year. But I'm going to focus on really 8 categories, because these categories are going to decide everything. And one of those categories is AI, AGI, and ASI. And most people don't know what those things are. By the way, let's say good morning to Mr. Pat Gray, who is joining us today on the program.
Is one of those subjects going to be football? Is that one of the topics?
No, I'm leaving that for you.
Okay.
I'm leaving that for you.
That's my resolution, is to talk more about football.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You might be happier.
I think I will.
I think I will. So let me explain AI, AGI, and ASI quickly, and then tell you about one thing that you've heard a lot about, in passing, but you don't know anything about, and you don't know how this is the turning point. And it's called the 5G network. So first, let me explain the difference between AI, AGI, and ASI. AI is artificial intelligence, and it's good at one thing. For instance, it's good at filtering out hate speech. But you have to tell it what hate speech is. Now, you can introduce machine learning, and it will start to decide what hate speech is. Oh, well, if this is bad, then this must be bad. And I want you to understand, when it comes to AI, do not fear the machine. Fear the goal, because the goal will be accomplished. It will never stop trying to accomplish its goal. So if it says wipe out hate speech, it will figure out a way to wipe out hate speech. And depending on what its goal is and what you've put into it, now remember, we just crossed a new threshold where it intuits things. It's starting to grow on its own. You don't even have to tell it It will discover it itself. You better hope you agree with it. For instance, on the battlefield. Just doesn't matter. Sacrifice all of those soldiers and you'll win. Well, that's not Western Judeo culture, is it? We don't do that. But AI will. You give AI the goal, it will win. It will accomplish that goal. And you don't know how it's going to accomplish it. But AI is like Big Blue. Big Blue can play chess, but it cannot play Go. Go is another AI program. Neither of those programs can play Jeopardy. It's artificial intelligence, and it's narrow. Artificial, it should be ANI, artificial narrow intelligence, meaning it's very deep, but only on one subject. It cannot, it can't tell you what's happening on TV tonight and play chess, okay? Artificial general intelligence, you as a human being have general intelligence. Artificial general intelligence means it's good at many things. And when I say good, I mean much better than you are at many things. There are scientists that tell us we will never hit artificial general intelligence. Ray Kurzweil thinks we will hit artificial general intelligence between 28 and 2030. I think we could hit artificial general intelligence any day. We don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be like Google last night. They said that this was at least a decade away, and then all of a sudden it just changed. It just learned. It woke up. I believe that's the way it's going to happen. Now, this is where it starts to get scary, because artificial intelligence is not smarter than you except on a couple of things, on one particular thing. Artificial general intelligence is smarter than you on everything. Then you will move into something that some scientists say will never happen. I believe it could happen within a matter of hours. And it is also likely that it never happens. I think it will. And I think it's going to happen in a way on both general intelligence and ASI, super intelligence, in ways we cannot imagine. Right now in Silicon Valley, they are doing the box test. And what they're doing is they're trying to figure out, how do we keep artificial general intelligence from connecting to the internet? If a machine all of a sudden is machine learning and it is online and it hits artificial general intelligence, the step to artificial super intelligence, which means it can connect with every server on Earth, it will know absolutely everything, and it is intelligent. It will continue to use that information to grow and morph and hide and everything else. If it is online, this is what people like Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking and Bill Gates all say could mean the end of all humanity, because it is an alien life form. We cannot predict it. We do not know if it will even care about humans. Again, artificial superintelligence is described as the person in the kitchen that has just had a birthday party for somebody and is sitting around and talking with all of its friends, and they've just eaten cake, and on the counter is a plate with a piece of cake on it, and there is a fly on the cake. We are the fly. We don't understand the counter. We don't understand the plate. We don't even understand cake. We certainly don't understand what the hell they're talking about birthdays or anything else. That's how you can understand the difference between us and artificial superintelligence. And we are within possibly a decade of hitting that kind of problem. We may be 4 decades to never on hitting that problem. I believe we will hit that problem. And when we do, absolutely everything changes. Now, here's why you need to pay attention. There is one thing that is already in process that is a reality that is the reason why you don't have a self-driving car today. Everybody's like, well, that self-driving car, man, it'll drive me on the highway. I don't even have to put my hands on it. Now we're bored with it. Now we're like, oh, yeah, well, that's over. When are we getting a real self-driving car? One that will pick me up in the morning and go pick up milk because I tell it to. We're a little rushed in all of this stuff. I will tell you the date that will happen, and it'll be about 2025. And I'll tell you why and how this truly changes the world by 2025, and how it also changes the world of AI, AGI, and ASI. So when I say I don't care about Donald Trump's tweets, I don't care about your little spat news media with the president. I don't care.